the number one objection that I get, the number one resistance that I get is, oh, it's too complicated. It's too hard. I'm too old. I don't know. This is new, right? And that's totally fair. We all resist change. New things are always kind of a little bit scary, but part of our mission is like, hey, this is not too hard. In fact, we've made it insanely simple for you. So please use it, because if you don't, you'll be in trouble soon.
Step into the world of success with your brand amplified, the ultimate podcast designed to unravel the intricacies of thriving businesses. I'm your host, Anika Jackson, and I'm on a mission to uncover the stories, strategies, and secrets that have propelled entrepreneurs and business leaders to success. William Hollis, or just Hollis, who's joining me on the show today, is founder and CEO of Raise AI. You, before we get into that, you're a self-taught software engineer, turned real estate investor, turned into somebody who figured out how to apply AI to your area of expertise, which I think it's really interesting because we usually don't think about AI, automations, and personalization in this arena. So, Hollis, thank you for being on Your Brand Amplified today.
Thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah. So let's talk about your background. Let's talk about that build up into going into AI and real estate.
Yeah, I mean, for me, very early, it all started really, really early on for AI and really software engineering and just computers, tech in general. I always had a very curious mind, always wanted to know how things worked. From the time we got our, Sega Genesis back in, 1990, whatever, playing the game and just wondering how are these characters on the screen moving around. And then we got our first household computer, a Windows 95 computer. For people who don't know, there used to be really big boxes. And I took it apart completely, like disassembled the entire thing, because I was just in awe that I could press these buttons on this keyboard and these letters would appear on the screen in Microsoft Word. Took the whole thing apart, obviously got in a whole lot of trouble for that.
I was going to ask.
Yeah, might have got some licks for that one. But I put it back together. But that's kind of how my mind has always worked when it came to technology. I just wanted to know how it was all possible. And that led me down the path of just learning and learning and learning. And eventually, after many, many years, I got a job, a startup entry-level position with a company who had a Craigslist ad that said, make computers talk. And lo and behold, this was what was at the time one of the number one enterprise level kind of AI companies at the time, natural language processing companies. So I got an entry-level position with them, and I worked my way all the way up to being the head of the applications engineering department, which is basically, helping to really scope and develop these AI tools. Simultaneously, I'd always wanted to start investing in real estate. Since I was in that same house where I took apart that computer, was a house we rented from a man named Mr. Carter. And, back in the 80s and 90s, you collect the rent in cash. Mr. Carter had the fattest wallet of any person I've ever seen to this day. On the first of the month, all that money stuffed in there, right? So I just looked at him as a kid and I was like, man, I don't know how Mr. Carter got there, but I need to buy me some real estate. That's what I should do with my life. So literally decades passed before I even began trying to invest in real estate, just based on some of my own limiting beliefs and things like that of what was possible. But once I finally started to try to do that, quickly ended up in this world of private equity and trying to buy larger properties. And when I made that transition in my real estate career is when I saw the inefficiencies in the market and understood that there was an opportunity to kind of apply my skill set. And so I started out doing that for my own business, my own small private equity company. And some of my colleagues just wanted help. So I would help people build some of these automated systems and AI systems for free early on, just because that's what I love to do. You know what I mean? It came very naturally to me until I was helping one friend with a project. And he says, man, you're taking a long time to do this. Would you go faster if I paid you? And I sat back and I thought to myself, I probably would go faster if you paid me. And so that was really the beginning of what the business is now. And that's kind of how I landed in this spot.
Wow. Well, you said several things there that are really important. limiting beliefs. So let's start with that one. What was your limiting belief? Did you just think you didn't have enough money, enough credit? What was the issue?
Yeah, I mean, all of the above combined with the fact that I didn't know any, 20 something year old black men that owned any property at the end of the day. I mean, growing up, we rented our house, my friends rented their house. Only way anyone owned a home was, grandma passed away and left it to their mom and, or, something like that. So there wasn't any blueprint. I didn't go to college, so I kind of missed out on the opportunity to get into certain rooms with people that might affect that mindset for the better, right? So I was just kind of stuck in my own little box of limitations until I changed my environment a little bit and was able to come out of that.
Yeah. That's a really hard one. I don't own any right now, but at different points in my life, I've owned real estate, been able to invest in real estate. And I remember that first one, I was like, I can't do this. I don't know how to buy, and then I found out, that time at least, I didn't need a lot of money down. I had good credit and the monthly payment was not much. So, this is way back machine. So things are a little different now. Housing prices were a little
Yes.
lower.
Yes, it is.
But I think it still is something that people, if you're not in the right rooms, you don't know people who can help give you access or give you that confidence. It can be really hard to break through and to have those beliefs for yourself. So kudos to you.
Yeah, it definitely is. I mean, you don't know what you don't know, right? And your friends don't know what they don't know. So until you run into somebody who knows, and not only who knows, but who you feel comfortable approaching with your questions, that in the very beginning, you're going to feel like every question you ask is a dumb question, like, oh, I should know this, right? So there you could be kind of psych ourselves out of asking for help. So it's a matter of finding those people who you're comfortable with, who are to some degree successful in whatever it is that the endeavor is. And then the other part of it is being willing to fail forward. You know what I mean? The first time I tried to raise capital, I thought I was going to go raise $4 million and I raised $0. So
Tell us about that story.
this is right coming into COVID. So my little more background on my real estate career, I finally got into real estate through wholesaling. For those who are not familiar, it's basically you find distressed sellers and you find buyers for their properties, right? So I started out that way, and then I started to try to acquire some small multifamily homes. So, duplexes, triplexes. At the time, I still do live in Connecticut, and anybody who knows Northeastern real estate was never cheap. Even pre-COVID, it's never been cheap. So the numbers just didn't jump off the page to me. When I really ran the numbers and I looked at, what the cash flow would be on some of these properties, I was like, man, this is not that great. I don't really know why people do this. So one of my kind of mentors at the time, he said, listen, look at larger deals. The same effort you're going to take to buy this 2-family, you can go buy 10 units, 15 units with pretty similar level of effort. So that's what I did. I just went to town learning how to underwrite and do all this, all the things that it takes to kind of buy commercial properties. And I found some really good deals out there, just pounding the pavement, working with local brokers and this and that. And I was very into these creative financing strategies because I knew I wouldn't have all the money up front. But I said, if I can make it a deal for the seller, like really understand what this property owner, what's their end goal here? Are they looking for a big check? Maybe they want some other, we can work something out. Long story short, I find 2 properties side by side. And I said, okay, perfect. This is a total of about 30-ish units. I can't remember the exact number right now, but side by side deal. And I said, okay, this is it. I got a LOI or a letter of intent to the seller with some really creative terms. He said, all right, if you can meet these terms, if you can actually make this happen, I'll sell it to you. So I said, okay, great. I had never raised any capital. I mean, I raised some capital before, but I mean, like, 50K, 100K, like very, very small amounts comparatively. But I said, I have a really good network. Let me just go out and I'm just going to start calling people. You know what I mean? And the downside is that was right going into COVID as well. Like, so there was a lot of uncertainty in the market. So, all of my phone calls, I got a lot of, call me back in a year after let's see what happened with COVID. I got a lot of that. And I fell flat on my face in that capital raise. I learned a lot of lessons from it though, but yeah, it was definitely a struggle. It was, had to eat a little bit of crow and go back to the seller and say, yeah, it's not going to happen.
Yeah. I mean, I think we all have to learn those hard lessons. And it's a lot, you can read a book, you can hear what other people have to say about it, but until you learn it yourself, then you don't know how you're going to pick yourself back up and move through the world. So what was it about that experience that helped you make the next one successful?
Interestingly, I was also a new father at the time.
Oh.
So yeah, my wife was either pregnant or my son had just been born. And I did something right around that time that I had never done it before in my life. I had hired a fitness coach. So I've been training myself probably 10 plus years at the time. I always said, why would anybody hire a trainer? Like, just go to the gym. Just go to the gym and move the weights around. Like, what's wrong with you, right? But when my wife was pregnant, I suddenly got this like real fear that I would just end up with a dad bod. And I was like, man, I need some help. I need someone to help me stay accountable here while I'm, getting 3 hours of sleep a night. So I hired a coach and I went through 2 or 3 coaches, but in the 6 months that I worked with the coach that I kind of settled with, I saw more progress in that 6 months than I had in probably the 10 years leading up to that point. So I tell that story because around that time I had the $4 million that I couldn't raise. And because my mindset had shifted around coaching, I said, okay, this is something I obviously don't know how to do. Let me try to go find a coach. Let me try to go find a community. And that's what I did. And that was also another game changer.
Yeah. Yeah. Amazing. When we know to ask for help or to seek it out, right? And like you said, with your personal trainer, took a couple of times before you found the one that was perfect for you. Did that same thing happen when you were looking into coaches for real estate?
Yeah, I guess so. In a little bit of a different way. I basically kind of tested and joined a few masterminds, and ended up sticking with some, and others I didn't. I will say, I did learn something different from each one, and it really helped me to figure out where my superpower would lie within the industry. And I use that word superpower in that everyone has, their unique ability. I'm a real firm believer in that. And listening and seeing what was available, you know what I mean? What roles are available? What really needs to happen in this business to make deals happen? And then learning all of that helped me to see where I fit in. And also the feedback from communities, right? Like when you're in a group of people sharing ideas and people continuously tell you, hey, man, you're really good at this thing. In your mind, it's just like, oh, well, that's what I do. I wake up in the morning and this is like my thing. But everyone else is like, whoa, you start to see, wow, okay, let me listen to what everybody's saying and maybe focus on that area.
Yeah. Well, and I want to go back to that time when you took apart the brand new computer, which it shows that you had this innate curiosity, but then you also learned that you had a talent for this kind of work. Wasn't something that you had to learn in school, right? I do teach grad school, but I also think that you have to have the tenacity, the will, the desire. You have to continue wanting to learn. You have to have that inquisitive mind to get really skilled at something. It doesn't matter if you have a degree or not. You can have a degree and not do anything with it, or you can not have a degree and you can still succeed at a high level. So I really applaud you for that and for having that thing that other people don't have, right? Figuring out, oh, this is how this works, and here's what I can do to improve this process and this system.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I think that applies to everyone. I mean, I consider myself fortunate that I get to work, secularly in the thing that I actually enjoy doing. And that's obviously not the case for everyone. But I really believe that, we're all capable of the same things, right? We all breathe the same oxygen and eat the same, like have the same, physiology. We all have the same capabilities. But at the end of the day, it really does come down to what is the thing that you would do even if you didn't get paid for it? What's the thing you would do even if you didn't get paid for it? And that's something that's really worth pursuing because you will probably be able to excel at it.
Yeah. Yeah. And what is that thing that you do that you would do even if you didn't get paid for it, but that other people value, right?
Yep.
You're giving it all away for free until somebody said, hey, see this a little faster, I'll pay you. Aha, you have a whole business there. So, so what was it like when you did, because I'm sure eventually you did get that 4 million raise or higher. And what was that feeling like compared to that feeling of, angst and failure?
Yeah. So you know what's interesting? What I remember most is the first time I was able to, find an investor, complete stranger, and, have a phone call with that person. I think we may have met for coffee or something. I can't quite remember, but no, we did not meet for coffee. We met him at an event, spoke to him a few times on the phone, introduced him to, the partner who was on the deal that I was working at that time. And I remember the phone call when he said, yes, I will wire you. It was a relatively small check. It was $25,000. I remember that exact moment. And that was a really good feeling. In fact, that is a moment that I draw on. I do a fair amount of public speaking, and before I walk on stage, that's the moment that I go to. That's the NLP. That's what I trigger in my mind, is that sensation when I've got that very first yes on that very first $25,000 check.
Yeah, amazing. And now you can repeat that, right? You figured out what you needed to do, how to get there. Now, you started your property investment company, you started your capital company, and now you have your tech company. So, talk about the springboard for starting that as its own standalone.
Yeah. It turns out I'm better. I'm better at tech than I am at capital. I'm okay with everything capital, but the tech part is really what, that's what I would do. Like I said, it's one of the things I would do, even if I didn't get paid for it. I would always have some tech project going on or another, some little thing I'm trying to, tinker with or build, especially in the AI arena, since that's my background, So it really happened organically. I mean, like I mentioned, I built a small suite of tools for myself. I was sharing those tools with other individuals in the mastermind at the time. I got that first paying client who said, yeah, he asked me if he could pay me for it. And once I said yes to him, I kind of just started telling everyone, like, yeah, I'll do this for you, but this is going to be the cost of it. Fast forward maybe a year or two, the AI company that I had been working at, my W-2, didn't sell when they should have sold. And the person, when Amazon, Facebook, Google, there's certain people, when they come knocking, you either get down or lay down. I like to say, like, you take the
Wow.
money, or they then turn around and stomp on you, right? So they didn't take the money, didn't have a good outcome in the end for them. So I got laid off. Long story short, I got laid off from that company. And it was kind of in this moment where I put together a handful of these paying clients for Raise AI, the early iteration of Raise AI. And I said, listen, this is it. This is the moment. If I'm going to do it, I got to do it. And, I took the leap of faith, had some real ups and downs. My hair wasn't this gray, 2.5 years ago. The beard didn't have any gray in it at the time at all. Actually, now it's creeping up on me. But it's been a ride. But it was definitely, a leap of faith that I had to take, and I'm glad I made the transition at the end of the day.
Yeah. And you did something that I think is also really important. You solved an issue for yourself. You were the case study.
Yeah.
And that
Yeah.
is what attracted people. Said, oh,
Yep.
he knows what he's doing. How do I work with him? So why is it important to use AI systems and processes in real estate and real estate deals?
Real estate is a behemoth of an industry, and it's also very old. I mean, in reality, the people that own the larger properties, these are older, larger companies, and they're slow. I mean, at the end of the day, it's a very slow industry, which is good, because the inefficiency in real estate creates some of the stability as well, right? So that there's some positive there. But in this world where we live in, with interest rate fluctuations, economic fluctuations, I mean, there are more real estate investors now than ever. It's become it's hot, right? It's something that everybody kind of wants to get into. It is more important than ever to create a competitive edge and also to be able to pivot quickly, right? Because there are a lot of people in difficult situations with commercial properties now, particularly in office and multifamily, who, 3 or 4, 5 years ago, they had a single strategy and that was their thing and that's what they did. And then economic conditions changed and they were not able to adapt. And one of the most powerful use cases for AI is data analysis and critical thinking. So if ever you needed a, thought companion, I like to call it, you know what I mean? AI is really, really good at that, combined with real time, real life data in many cases, right? So not only is it very smart, but it also knows what it's talking about. So that alone is a game changer. I mean, you look at the time it would take to underwrite, even if you're doing, residential, smaller multifamily deals, how long would it take you to underwrite or analyze, 100 properties and then submit offers on all those properties and then respond to the offers on all those properties? You see the scale or the scalability rather offered through AI and automation is just unmatched. And we're still in a little bit of a early adoption phase. I know, ChatGPT has got a few years on it now and everyone's, for the most part, people are using it, but adoption into business use cases is still kind of lagging behind, particularly in the real estate industry where you're dealing with very large numbers and dollar value. So people are a little bit more trepidatious about this adoption anyway. If you're someone who could come in early and figure these things out and start to implement them in your business, you're going to definitely, gain some headway on your competition.
100%. I think about that in so many different types of businesses. It's the same thing, right? People know how to use chat. Maybe they've tried Perplexity and Claude and other systems that are out there. I'm partial to a couple of others, and maybe they know how to use it for some parts of their business process. But the way that you're using it is truly unique.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, the foundational idea of Raise AI is to provide a holistic solution, right? If you take a step back, when with just automation alone, the idea is, hey, I don't want to have to copy this information from over here and paste it over here. That's number one, right? Now, level two of that is, okay, how can I don't even want to go find the information. I want the information to just be there in this place. And then when I need it, it's over here in this other place, or the next iteration after that is, how can I get all the information, all the communication, all the tools I need to run my business in one place, go have one source of truth where I can run, in our case, in Raise AI is for, investor relations and fund management. How can we get all of this stuff happening in one place versus, my workday is 25 tabs open in my Chrome browser and I'm constantly context switching every few minutes, and that's at its core, that's what Raise AI is looking to solve.
Yeah. And you also talk about personalized experiences. And that's something that's been a major theme, something I've been thinking about I've been having a lot of conversations about lately, is this need for hyper personalization, if you will. So I imagine you can use tools to see what kind of properties a specific investor is interested in, what their limits are, their capacity, what might be an easy yes for them. And then when you're looking at all these properties, aggregating it, then you can say, okay, this goes to this person, these two go to this other person. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah. That's exactly right. It's really about understanding psychographically what people are looking for, right? Like, what are your goals? Or if you don't have any goals that align with what I offer, right? Because I think I'll kind of pull back the curtain here. The negative side to this is we're all tired of getting spammed.
Yeah.
Everybody is tired of spam calls, spam texts, spam email, spam door knock, like, leave me alone. You know what I mean? However, when Amazon sends you that notification, they're like, hey, the Stanley Cup you were looking at is now on sale. You click it.
Right.
Right? It's also spam, except it's spam that you want. So it's suddenly not spam, you know? And so that's how the big guys do it, though. They understand of all the things that are available in the Amazon marketplace, these are the things that Hollis is going to want to click on. So I'll put that in front of him. And similarly, when it comes to, investments for high net worth individuals or real estate investors, if they're in the shopping cart, they're looking for something. And it's our job to really get an understanding of what it is they're looking for so we can put that in front of them as opposed to all the other things that they're really not interested in.
Yeah. Yeah. And what kind of scale have you seen before usage and then post usage? Like, have you seen just more responses, bigger deals, higher percentage of closes?
I would say the biggest difference is in higher percentage of closes, and something we measure because of the sales cycle for investments in private placements. It's a pretty long sales cycle, right? You got to build real know, like, and trust. Like, we're all just strangers on the internet. Why would I give you my money? So we really track the number of conversations, right? Through the use of AI, how many more conversations does a client have with investors before and with after the use of AI? And we typically see a 25 to 30% increase in just the number of conversations alone.
Oh,
Right. And that's not even talking about the number of new prospects that are coming in. It's just how many more conversations, how many more people have you been able to get on the phone with to build a connection with? And we see pretty significant increases there basically across the board every time.
yeah. Nice. And how do you find people to come into your circle? 'Cause I know that every time I put anything on LinkedIn that seems like I'm moving to a new job, even though if it's something I've been doing for a long time or years as a side hustle or just something for fun that now is a job, you get those spammy LinkedIn messages. Hey, you know, thinking about a franchise, need new insurance, things like that. And I do get them sometimes for real estate. So as a potential investor, right? How do we weed through all of those to get to the right message? And how do you, as the organization, help send the right message to the right people?
Yeah, great question. So we, as a company, spend a lot of time, energy, and money on data. We really want to know before we send out, whether it's a cold, because we do cold messages on LinkedIn as well, but it's similar to the Amazon thing, right? Like, every notification is spam until you see the one that you want. And it's a matter of, we spend the time and effort and money on the data to really make our best effort at making sure that it's that this is somebody who wants to see this message, combined with a multi-channel approach. So similarly, a message when it feels random, like as in I have no connection to this brand or person,
Yeah.
it feels spammy. However, if there is some level of brand recognition there, then now the leads are typically more receptive to those messages, which is why I specifically talk about LinkedIn. But that's why we take a multi-channel approach, because you build some brand familiarity beforehand. And then when someone does receive a personalized message, not only is it personalized to what, an offering we think they'd be interested in, or a subject or topic we think they'd be interested in, but it comes along now with brand recognition to, increase the positive or the efficiency of that message. So that's just one of the ways. But again, really it comes down to data. We pride ourselves on that, really diving deep into the data and being strategic with all forms of our outreach, no matter what the channel is.
You are hitting on all the things that I talk about with my students because I teach digital media. And so I love this because you're proving the points of the personalization, data, right? And then having a multi-channel, cross-channel approach in everything that you do.
Yep. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's so important. I mean, it's interesting because not every channel will give you the same direct ROI. For example, we were running these numbers just today, looking at business model and things like that and different potential there. And you look at something like cold email, for example, right, where someone's going to say, "Wow, I have to send out 20,000 emails, and I only got 1, 2, 5 calls scheduled." It doesn't matter what number you put on. You sent out 20,000. That's a lot, right? So it feels like, man, it doesn't work. Was it effective at all? However, there's to your point, there's a cross effect there where email combined with another channel or two, preferably all the other channels, are working together. There's a synchronicity to where maybe they didn't click your ad, but they opened your email, or didn't open your email, but they went to your LinkedIn profile or went to your website, or whatever the, conversion metric is going to be. And it's so important to have all of these channels, because that's how human beings work, right? There's a reason why in a TV show, the Coca-Cola emblem is facing forward when it's set on the table. They don't expect you to run out and buy a Coca-Cola, but the next time you think soda, they want you to think Coca-Cola, right? And we have to take, even small businesses need to have that mindset as well, I believe.
Yeah, absolutely. Where do you see your business going from here?
This is great timing for this question. We just had our quarterly meeting. So we've got some really exciting things coming. We've spent the last 4 or 5 months putting together various AI agents that can operate fairly autonomously to help our clients accomplish their goals. So we've got a nice roadmap. We're using them internally right now for our own client fulfillment, but we're also looking at how can we productize those a little bit to, kind of let clients learn some of this stuff on their own and adopt some of these things on their own. Because personally, that's kind of a personal goal of mine, I would say, is the education piece. I think everyone not only needs to know this stuff, but everyone is capable of it. And there's a lot of limiting belief around technology, right? So as a part of the public speaking that I do, I go to businesses to help them learn how to adopt AI specifically in their company. And the number one objection that I get, the number one resistance that I get is, oh, it's too complicated. It's too hard. I'm too old. I don't know. This is new, right? And that's totally fair. We all resist change. New things are always kind of a little bit scary, but part of our mission is like, hey, this is not too hard. In fact, we've made it insanely simple for you. So please use it, because if you don't, you'll be in trouble soon. So that's one of the directions that we're going, is kind of doubling down on the education. We're launching a community here in a couple of months, specifically focused on AI for raising capital, whether that's venture capital, real estate, whatever. We're going to try to open it up a little bit more inside that community, releasing some of these AI agents within that community for community members to use. And then we're also working on several large projects that are kind of coming together under one brand, where we'll actually partner on real estate projects and handle investor relations, handle capital raising, and those sorts of things for a select few deals at a time. That's going to be in the next year. That's kind of where our company's headed. And, beyond that, we really believe we'll occupy a significant space within this private equity sector.
Fantastic. Hollis, this has been so fun and educational. Your enthusiasm and just sincerity really shines through. So thank you for bringing that to the show and to the world.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Yeah. We're going to lead people to your website, which we'll have in the show notes. But if you want to just mention it right now, that'd be fantastic too.
Yeah, absolutely. Check us out at tryraise.ai. All the information is there. You can also reach me on LinkedIn. I'm really active there as well.
Okay, fantastic. And my last question, do you have a favorite quote, mantra, poem, verse, family motto?
I will give you the Hollis family motto, introduced by Grandpa Hollis 2 generations ago. Reach for the stars and grab the moon. The meaning behind that is to set big goals. Even if you miss, you will have accomplished much more than if you set a small goal.
Fantastic. I can feel that. Amazing. Thank you so much again, Hollis, for joining me on Your Brand Amplified. Thank you to everybody who's watching this episode or listening to it and has joined us for this enriching conversation. You're hitting on all the points, Hollis, that no matter what business you have, you need to understand personalization. You need to understand how to correctly use automations, right? And also make sure that you have a cross-channel strategy. It doesn't mean you have to be everywhere, but you do need to be a little bit here, a little bit there to make sure that people are aware. So
that's it. That's it. Exactly. Thank you so much for having me, Anika. This has been a really good time.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you again to everybody. I will be back again with another amazing guest to share their story, their journey, and some important tips for you to make your journey a little bit easier. Thanks for listening or watching to this episode of Your Brand Amplified. Don't forget to leave us a rating or review on your favorite podcast listening platform. And if you want to learn more, check us out at yourbrandamplified.com.